You use the cap properties to change the physical appearance of the front and or the back of an extruded 3D object. Use cap to create a bevel or to inflate or deflate the back of the front. So to see how this works, let's open up Photoshop and let's create a new document. Go File, New, have this new document here, click OK. Now I want to work with a shape, so I'm going to go down here, click on the Shape tool, and I've got the Custom Shape tool selected. I have the fleur-de-lis selected already here. You can find the fleur-de-lis down here a little ways, right there. Don't have to use the fleur-de-lis, but it kind of works in this case. Click on that to close it and drag out the fleur-de-lis right there. I'm going to change this to the work path, 3D extrusion, create. Let me just click on it to make it active, and I'll rotate it a bit so you can get a better look at it like so. And the cap properties are over here. You've got deform and then cap. Click on that. Cap properties are divided into two groups, bevel and inflate. We'll work with inflate first. It's just a little bit easier to work with. You see there's an angle and a strength. The default angle is 45 and the strength is 0. 45 degrees is the angle at which the inflation or deflation will take place. It'll come out here a little bit like that at that angle. And then the strength says how far out or in does it go. So let's just start pulling this forward like that, and you see how it comes out there. And because of all the controls there and the blue line, that may be a little bit busy. So let me rotate this to the back side. There you go. Nothing's happening yet here because we haven't switched on the back. I'm going to go up here. Instead of front, I'll go front and back. Now you can see how it comes out there pretty obviously. As I go farther, eventually these two sides are going to meet. Then they start sort of pushing out some little thin thing in the middle. It looks kind of strange, but let me show you that. If I decrease the angle, that will change. Increase it, it goes away. But eventually they meet and they create those little funny lines. If I decrease the angle to less than 0, then it goes inside. It becomes a deflation like so. We can get rid of that sharp edge by just reducing the strength. Kind of just gradually meets up like that. So that is deflation or inflation like so. Now if I click Reset Deformation here inside the cap set of properties, it doesn't work properly. It may be a bug. If I click this, it just sends the extrusion down to a depth of 1, which is not good. And then if I start, let's say, re-extruding it by going back over to here and extruding it like this, it keeps what just happened. It keeps the deflation going there. Not what you want to see. So I'm going to go back in history here and say, make the extrusion. We'll start over again from scratch like that. Just so you know, let me put this off to the side again. Go back to 3D here. Make sure layer is selected. Go back to cap. Now I want to work on the bevel. The bevel is very similar to inflate in that you start with an angle of 45 degrees and a width of 0, not a strength, but a width. You notice how in the layers here you've got 5 meshes. 2 of them are bevels, front bevel and back bevel. This allows you to add different materials to the bevels specifically rather than just to the front or the back or the sides here. That's the advantage over inflation. Inflation doesn't add an extra object on which you can add a material. It just kind of pushes this thing out or pulls it in. So bevel gives you one more thing to work with here. We'll show you that in a second. There's 45 degrees. There's the width. I'll click on this and increase the width, and you'll see the edge of the bevel form here. There you go, like that. And again, let me rotate it to the back side here. And again, I'll select both sides like this, front and back. The greater the width, you take up more of the back like that. Eventually it'll meet. And the angle, of course, says how steep it is or shallow it is. It's kind of shallow. Here it's steeper, kind of pushing it out like that. We'll keep it right around 45 for now. And if I drop it to a negative value, then it goes inside. It becomes an internal bevel like so. All right, we'll go back to 45 or so like that. Let's change the contour. The contour by default is just this straight line. The bevel is just this flat thing. But you can change that by clicking on this drop-down arrow there and choosing from these presets. This will be kind of a mound that comes out. Might see it better if I zoom in a bit, so I'll do Control or Command plus a couple of times here, and you can see that a little bit better there. Click this drop-down arrow again. Let's change this one, make it a valley along the bevel. Here it's going to have little edges to it. Makes the round thing like that. Here it's a bigger edge. See how that works? This one's going to have a double thing going on there. This one's going to have a quadruple thing going on. If you don't see a contour you like here, you can create your own. Just click here. That opens up the contour editor. Let's start from scratch here by going to the linear. All I have to do is click, and that adds a point. You can watch your results over here, like so. Creating some elaborate looking frames if you want to do that. Down like so. Then you can save this as a custom preset, or just say OK, and that'll be applied at this particular moment. Let me show you a couple of built-in presets here by going back to the Mesh panel. Clicking on the shape presets here. The first few are bevel-oriented presets. Click on this one here. It's a standard bevel. It does it only on the front. So let me turn it back around again so you can see the front. And there we are. So change this one here to another one. This one has a little bit of a frame look to it. This one gives it that nice contour look. This is an inflation as opposed to a bevel. See how smooth it is? This is kind of a cool one. I like this one. It's a pillow. It has an extrusion depth of 0, but you see it inflates on both sides here. Extrusion of 0, but inflates both sides there. That's a pretty cool preset. Let me go back to just a standard bevel here. I'm going to talk about materials in separate lessons, but I do want to show you something real quick here about how the bevel relates to other parts of this object. So I'm going to click on the front bevel material here. If I go up to diffuse, I can change the texture. Right now the texture is the same for all these guys. I'm going to give the bevel something different. So I'm going to go over here to this one and say I want to edit the texture. Now it's going to say I'm going to edit it for all of them. So that's not what I want to do. I want to actually have a new texture. So this shows this little new texture dialog box. Just click OK. Now you want to open that up, edit the texture. I'm going to give it some color. So I'm just going to fill this with color. So go edit, fill there. Let's fill it with a color here. Click on that. Pick this orange color, for example. Click OK. Save that. And now we're going to come back and it shows the bevel color right there on only the bevel, not on the rest of the object. So you can have a color applied just to the bevel in different colors or different textures, different materials applied to other elements of this object. So that's one of the great advantages of using an extruded object where you can have a bevel and apply different material to the bevel itself. So that's a quick rundown on the cap properties that allow you to adjust the physical appearance of the front and the back of an extruded object.